Well, hello everybody and welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm going to make some apple cider muffins. So these are going to be muffins using basically the juice from apples. Now, I should explain for my UK viewers that apple cider, as it's known in North America, is not an alcohol. It's simply the unfiltered juice from the apple. So apples are pressed and the juice which comes out is apple cider. If it's filtered, it becomes apple juice. They do make something called hard apple cider in America, which is the alcoholic equivalent of what we call cider over here. So this recipe is using apple cider, which is not alcoholic. Now, I've made my own apple cider by mulching apples and then pressing the juice out of them, but you could buy apple juice and use that, and I will show. I've got some apple juice that I'll show you anyway. The other thing I want to say at this stage is that I'm starting off with 300 millilitres of apple cider, which I'm going to heat and reduce until I have 120 millilitres, half a cup basically. And that's going to concentrate the apple flavour in that juice. But you could do this just with half a cup, 120 millilitres of apple cider or apple juice without reducing it down if you wanted to. That's a matter of personal preference. So I'll go on to the ingredients. And before I do the ingredients, I'll just say that I have lined a muffin pan with paper cases, but I have just greased and floured 2 cups so that I can try to show you that you can do this without the muffin cases if you want to. So for the ingredients, I have 250 grams, which is 1 2/3 cups of plain flour. That's based on scooping packed flour into a 250 millilitre cup. I have 350 grams of sugar, but I've divided that into 2. So I have 200 grams of sugar, which is for the muffins, that's 1 cup. And I have 150 grams of sugar, 3/4 of a cup, which I'm going to use to dip the muffins in. So I'm not going to use all of that in all probability. I will be able to save some of that for use on another recipe basically, but I'm going to put these spices into that sugar, or some of these spices into that sugar, and then that will coat the top of the muffins basically. So I also have 2 medium eggs, which would be large in the USA. I have 60 millilitres of milk, which is 1/4 of a cup. I have 30 millilitres of vegetable oil, which is 2 tablespoons. As I mentioned, I have 300 millilitres, which is 1 1/4 cups of my apple cider. And here, just to show you, this is some apple juice which I have bought, which I will be drinking obviously. But you could use that instead of this apple cider for ease really, if you wanted to. I have 2 teaspoons, 8 grams of baking powder, half a teaspoon, 3 grams of salt, and then for my spices I have 6 grams, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1 1/2 grams, half a teaspoon of ground cardamom, 1 1/2 grams, half a teaspoon of ground allspice, and I have here, and it actually only weighs about 1 1/2 grams, but it is a teaspoon of freshly grated nutmeg. You could use ground nutmeg, but freshly grated tends to have a slightly stronger flavour. If you don't have ground nutmeg but you have ground mace, you could use that. That's a similar flavour but slightly milder. So that's all the ingredients, and the first thing I'm going to do is to heat this apple cider to reduce it down to 120 millilitres, And as that's happening, I'm going to preheat my oven to 180 degrees Celsius. That's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit. So I've put my apple cider into a pan, and I'm using a large pan with a large surface because that will help it reduce that bit quicker. And I'm simply going to bring that to the boil and then simmer it until it reduces. So as you can see, that's beginning to boil now. So I'm going to have that on a gentle boil for as long as it takes to reduce it in volume to 120 millilitres or thereabouts. So there is my apple cider reduced, and that took about 7 minutes to reduce that. So I'll just set that to a side to cool a little bit, and I'm going to start to mix the ingredients together. And so what I'm going to do first of all is to put my flour into a larger bowl and my 200 grams of sugar and my baking powder and salt, and I'm going to mix those together. And then I'm going to put my spices into a larger bowl, and I'm going to mix those together. Like that. And I'm going to take 2 teaspoons of that, basically, and put that into the flour mixture. And mix that around again. And we'll just set that to one side. So then, in the bowl that I had the flour in, I'm simply going to put my eggs, the milk, the oil, and the apple cider, and I'm going to whisk those together. Like that. Now at this stage I need to mention that I also have 4 tablespoons, 56 grams of butter, which I'm going to melt, because we're going to either dip our muffins in that and then coat them in sugar, or I'm going to brush the top of the muffins with butter and then dip them in the sugar. But we'll need that later. So I'm going to now put the wet mixture into the dry mixture, and I'm simply going to stir that to get it mixed in until it's just combined, and there may be a couple of little lumps left. It doesn't matter. We don't want to over mix this because it's a muffin mix. And that's mixed enough. So then we need to put that into our muffin pan. and I'm going to use an ice cream scoop, and I'm just going to try to fill them evenly, about 2/3 full probably, but evenly between the 12 holes. And so I have filled those fairly evenly, as I mentioned, and I'm going to put those into the oven, and I'm going to bake them for between 20 and 22 minutes. They should rise up, feel firm to the touch, and a skewer in the centre will come out clean. And at that point I'll take them out of the oven and I'll leave them in the tin for a few minutes. Then I'll transfer them to a wire rack, and as they cool down, I'm going to brush them with some butter, or dip them in butter and coat them with our spiced sugar mixture. But I'll come back as these are cooling down. I baked the apple cider muffins for 20 minutes. I tested them with a skewer and it came out clean. So I've taken them out of the oven and they're cooling down on a wire rack. And this is what they look like. And the two which I did in the muffin tin without the paper cases, they came out very easily as well. So what I've done is I've melted my butter there, and I've mixed my spice with the 150 grams of sugar there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to brush the muffin, and with these ones which don't have the paper cases, I'm going to brush the sides as well with butter. And then I'm going to simply roll them in my sugar and get them coated like that. And with the ones which are in the paper cases, I'm just going to brush the top. You could dip them in the butter, but that's okay like that. And I'm just going to roll that top around and get that coated, and do the same with the remainder. So I've now covered all of those, and as you can see I have quite a bit of sugar with the spice mixture in it. I'm going to put that into a sealed jar, and I'm going to use that for another recipe in the next few days. So they look quite good, so let me have a taste of this one that's got no paper case. That is very, very good. You get the spices and the sweetness from the sugar on the outside, obviously, but also that apple flavour comes through very nicely indeed. So this is one of those simple recipes, as muffins tend to be, but very good for this time of year when apples tend to be in abundance. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there is going to be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for the recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well, and I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.